Emily as intuitive guide, as a sound alchemist, as a multi-dimensional business mentor, and now a galactic astrologer. And well, hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Galactic Astrology Podcast. My name is Ursula with the Ascension Playground, and I'm joined today by the podcast co-host, Julia Balaz. And Julia, as many of us know, is the creator and founder of what's called the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioner's course. And today, Julia and I are celebrating the certification of Emily Ghosh. Congratulations, Emily, and welcome, ladies. Hello.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with both of you.
Well, we are excited to see you, and we know that you're calling in from Florida within the United States, and I'm calling in on the other coast of California, and our dear Julia is calling in from Ireland. So isn't that amazing that we've created this beautiful network between the three of us as we launch into really finding out a little bit more about Emily? We would love to hear your story of the spiritual path that brought you here to this now moment. Emily, share the tea. How did you find this path to spirituality? Was it already within you as a child?
You know, I very much resonate with the Fulmel Hut Starseed mission. And I feel like many of my early years were spent trying to figure it out, trying to understand, trying to, clear karma, to understand relationships. I always, from the time I was a little girl, had a strong desire to be of service. I always loved Mother Teresa, and it was just this strong desire of, coming here to do something to be of service, but not quite knowing how that would unfold. And, for me, many years were spent kind of in the thinking, analytical left part of my brain. I followed sort of this path of going into corporate America and working my way up the corporate ladder. And, around that time, there was so much in my life that sort of felt like it was out of alignment. And I feel like the soul will kind of pull us back to help us remember. And that's around the time when I started to really start to get curious about astrology and so many of the esoteric, metaphysical, mystical, ways of this universe. And so I remember, having astrology readings, and during that time, I was trying to really figure out relationships, that were challenging in my life. And, that was a big part of the way that I was learning was through challenging relationships. And, I think this is one of the characteristics that may unite those that have this desire to study and deepen in astrology. It's like, how are you getting that from looking at my chart? Starting to ask questions, starting to want to know more. And that was what really ignited this love and this desire and this passion for astrology, and, for really understanding the subconscious. And, what's interesting for me is that I have 3 planets in the 12th house of my chart. And, when you're just learning about astrology in the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, this is bad news, house of horrors and hospitals and prisons and things like that. And then you start to really, unpack more of the broader story and start to realize the beauty in the 12th house and in every single part of our charts. So for me, it was like understanding, yes, this deep desire to better understand and explore the subconscious and our subconscious, beliefs, and how that impacts and how that helps us to create our reality. And all of this, metaphysical and connection to multidimensional realms. And that's what I really love about astrology, because it's like there's no such thing as a bad part of our chart or a bad chart. It's all in divine perfection, and it all helps us to lead forward in our, evolutionary growth. So that's a little bit about my journey.
I love that you brought already a little bit of your astrology. There's a few paths that I would like to take and highlight. First of all, the star that you mentioned at the very beginning, Fomalhaut. For those who don't know, this is one of the four royal stars, the guardians of cardinal directions, east, west, north, and south. The royal star Fomalhaut is linked, in my experience, if people have connection, like planets aligned to Fomalhaut, they have this beautiful frequency that I'm sure you all can feel coming from Emily, graceful, divine, feminine, so soft, so wise, so grounded, so humble, and so compassionate. So it's just another validation for me to see Fomalhaut expressing in this beautiful way with you. And also, as you mentioned, a connection to divine feminine that is in service to humanity. So interesting then to see also planets in 12th house. I have a few myself, so it's nice to see that it doesn't have to always manifest in a difficult way, issues with mental health or whatnot. Actually, having Sun, Venus, and Mars in your case in the 12th house can come up as extra ability to understand the subconscious realm and act with excitement on the inner guidance that comes from subconscious. I presume you have quite amazing dreams that are, offering a lot of guidance to you in your life. I would love your take on that. And yeah, it's just beautiful how astrology really shows up in our lives, hearing your story and looking at your chart. It's just so amazing.
Thank you so much, Julia. So much of what you shared is so helpful. And it's true right now, especially I'm noticing such a significant connection with my dreams. I think perhaps it's because I have, Neptune transiting conjunct my moon right now in Pisces, and definitely noticing such a strong connection and remembering my dreams and the messages there. They're such a gift. I want to add something that I learned through the course with Fomalhaut star seeds that I've found deeply resonated for me and then that's spending the early years in life really overcoming challenges and developing confidence and developing worthiness. That has definitely been the biggest part of my journey. And also, learning through discernment about boundaries, about self-worth, about really effective communication. And Archangel Gabriel is connected with Fomalhaut. And I feel like, just being able to call upon, extra guidance and support for our soul mission can be so, so helpful.
Thank you. That is such a great point to highlight. One more thing I want to point out is you have your Neptune conjunct galactic center, and you have a stellium in Sagittarius too. So there's this additional layer of wisdom and eagerness to grow and evolve and support evolution of consciousness on Earth. And we can see that through much of your work, where normally you are the one interviewing inspirational people. So I can't wait when we get to the point when we show your work, your websites, your social media, as again, it's such a beautiful reflection of your path, reflected also in your astrology and your South North node being in Gemini Sagittarius.
I was going to say, I do feel such a strong, connection to the Gemini Sagittarius axis. And then also, something with the cosmic points that I found really interesting and helpful was this idea, because I have Saturn conjunct the Shapley attractor in the third house, and it's at 0 degrees. And I feel like for me, because it's at 0 degrees, it's about learning to communicate with vulnerability. in a new way, that I haven't, done before. And to be able to, gain that confidence, because it is vulnerable. There is, I have Chiron in Gemini. And so it is, but as that has become more, activated in my life, the way that it's manifested is in the ninth house, which is that opposite axis. So that's been really interesting to notice as well.
My question was around the young Emily, maybe like preteen. I'm going back to the Royal Star Fomalhaut, this idea of wanting to communicate, feeling a natural connection to, let's say, the divine 12th house. But was there a point where you had to get through the trauma drama of perhaps someone trying to shut you down and say, who are you to speak? So I was just wondering if you ever had to cross over that huge barrier, because that blockage is typically found also with that royal star, that you have to really overcome um, the nemesis too of, well, I don't want to say anything that's false, so maybe I should just stay small and stay in the hidden aspect of the 12th. So if you could you share that with others, because I think many who might be listening would love to. They see you and Julia as radiant communicators, but was there a part where you were like, I think I'll just you know
Yes, every step of the journey. It's such a beautiful question. And this is the reason why helping others with their self expression, with shining their lights, has been such a deep passion of mine. Because, from this entire incarnation, and I'm sure in previous, it has been a journey for me. It has come with challenges. And one thing that resonates for me is I have my midheaven conjunct the Pleiades, and it's this idea of being able to see multiple perspectives, multiple ideas, and develop confidence with sharing my own ideas, my own perspective. I feel like that has definitely been a part of my journey, especially in earlier years. And when I was guided to, start a podcast, I was like, this is more scary than anything, to be seen and to share my voice in this way. But what's so interesting about the soul, and I feel like we can all relate to this in some way, shape, or form, is that the soul will guide us to spaces and places that may not feel comfortable. And they're so much for our own growth and what we learn about ourselves through that process. So anything that has to do with visibility or speaking or communicating, and expressing, it's like, though there has been resistance, there's also been so many gifts and blessings in being able to share and express creatively.
Wow. Because public speaking is one of the scariest things for the average person. So good for you to embrace Archangel Gabriel. And I love how you're bringing in the star wisdom to support the astrology, because just looking a little bit at your background, I'm just going to call out a few words. Emily as intuitive guide, as a sound alchemist, as a multi-dimensional business mentor, and now a galactic astrologer. And the beautiful part that I love, and I'd love to segue to this part, is this idea of what you talk about, the soul's blueprint. And it's parallel to the idea of music and how harmony and balance. So could you just say a little bit about this idea of how music and the soul's blueprint, how you see that dovetailing as a metaphor?
It's so beautiful. I feel like when we look at a natal chart, it's a direct connection with somebody's soul. And the aspects that we see, the points in somebody's chart, can be represented like notes in music. And I feel like in every part of our chart and our charts, we have sort of a lower octave and then a higher octave, a higher frequency. And when we begin to learn the notes, learn the, unique metaphor, the unique music of our chart, then we're able to play from a higher octave. And so that's where I see is just such a beautiful analogy or beautiful connection between music and astrology. Pythagoras talked about the music of the spheres, and often, I feel like I'm connecting with that energy because it's a way that we're connecting with energy, with frequencies. And so that's been a really beautiful part of my journey. And it's something that I absolutely love to help with in client sessions, is to help people to understand and to express the unique music that they came here to play.
I have to say, I've been following Emily on Instagram and all the other social media that she's active on for a while, and just seeing or hearing some of the music of the using the crystal balls and other amazing instruments. There's such a deep resonance, so much harmony, so nourishing. I keep wishing I could just teleport myself to one of your retreats or events when you do play. It's truly amazing. And your social media, it actually touches or nourishes the visual senses, the mind, the soul as well, the depth of your wisdom that you come through with, and then body as well. So it's like multi-sensual experience. Really beautiful. Such a
Thank you.
gem.
Thank you.
I think the other thing I found astounding about you, Emily, is this idea of the people that you have interviewed with your podcast are very high level. And well, of course, you've had Julia and Aaron Abkey and Pam Gregory, you and Laura. And so I'm just going to put a shout out for, if anyone wants to get to know Emily Ghosh a little bit better, Julia will put in the comments how to engage with Emily. If you are into sound baths, sound alchemy, this idea of reattuning within your soul essence, your body. Emily, I just listened to what you did for this new lunar year. Today's the 23rd of January on 2023. So we're really vibing, I think, with the 23, which is a 5, which for me is always the Venusian Hathor star pattern. So this idea of calling in the divine sacred feminine today between the three of us, it just feels so potent right now.
Oh, and that's exactly the word that was coming to mind. I have chills. It's
And speaking of which, isn't it just this week that you announced a launch of a book that was a collaboration of 22 other inspirational women? And the book is called The Awakened Feminine. Do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Yes, it was such an honor, is such an honor to be a part of this co-creation with 22 other women from around the globe who have shared their own unique awakening stories so beautifully and courageously. And, again, it is just that idea that we can all learn so much from each other. So that is on Amazon right now, and I'm so excited for that to be birthed into the world.
Amazing, super well done. Ursula, shall we show the website now?
Yes, look at the gorgeous divine feminine embodied. Here we are, sound medicine, new paradigm, business mentorship, and galactic astrology. Oh my gosh, Emily, tell us about this website. It's just gorgeous.
Oh, well, thank you. I love designing. So I love marketing and branding. So it was really fun to help, with the design aspect of the site. So thank you.
You have a bachelor's arts degree at the University of Arizona, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I got to say, I just love your logo, the triangle with the lunar shape. So if people want to find this, emilyghoshharris.com. You can learn about Emily, her services, her courses, her mentorship program, her podcast, and a great way to contact her. So under services, we see galactic astrology, quantum soul guidance sessions up first, but then there's so much more. I'm going to scroll down slowly. Here we go. Look at that beautiful tree, first of all. Emily, intuitive astrology soul blueprint sessions. Oh, I love it. And sound healing. Now, can I just ask out loud? So, who's helped support you? Like, who are your favorite teachers with sound healing? Because there's quite a few popping up on the
There's so many incredible teachers. Jonathan Goldman, I was super inspired by his book Sound Medicine, and I'm actually going to be interviewing him and his partner Andy on my podcast next
Oh,
week, which I'm so excited about. And then I have to give a shout out to Raquel Webb, who I've been on a 9-month immersion journey with her, and she's really an incredible sound alchemist.
wow. And then, of course, there's Robert Gilbert. If you haven't found him on Gaia TV yet, I've taken a few classes with him.
Cool.
Beautiful esoteric sound frequencies. So, and then down here, look at this. This is the soul purpose planning, intuitive business consulting. Now, did you study business in college and brought that forward now into a multi-dimensional business mentor program? Tell me about that first word, multi-dimensional, because I find it fascinating. Like, tell me more.
Well, it's interesting. So, I shared a little bit in my journey, which was more of a focus on the linear, part of the left brain in earlier years. And I got my MBA. And so, I have this background in business. But really, what I found in my own, business journey and then working with clients is that it is so much more than what meets the eye. It's more than the strategy. It is such a multi-dimensional experience, and it's an experience of soul growth and soul alchemy to really pour into and birth what is on your heart to bring forward and create, and in the form of a business. So that's why really what I focus on is a multi-dimensional approach, looking at the energetics, looking at the subconscious, looking at what our beliefs are, and being able to really create from a higher octave in business.
Wow. I mean, out here in California, we've heard of like a conscious business, you know, like from the heart centered, but you've just raised the bar even higher, talking about multidimensionality. It feels very Aquarian to me. And it frames it in a way that shows you you're more than the dashboard that you were working from before. It's not always just survival, paycheck, get a little notoriety, and then done. But it's this idea of a broader dashboard, like understanding quantum, like quantum soul guidance now. What a lovely dovetail for your mentorship program. In fact, that's a good segue to find your way to Julia and the galactic astrology and the calculator. Tell us how that happened. And then also, how does that dovetail with your mentorship program in business?
Well, I feel like Julia is such an embodiment of divine feminine, Aquarian age business, new paradigm, business. And so she's been such a beautiful way sharer, not only in astrology, galactic astrology, but also in business. And that's one of the things that I really absolutely love about the course. There's so many things, but one is that there is, amazing tips on business and accessing and bringing forth your psychic abilities. I mean, it's so multifaceted. And then we have live calls and just an amazing community where I've met some just dear friends and connections, and I feel like it just goes on and on because it's there's still just this ongoing community and that you can be a part of. And so anytime people ask me about the course, it's just a wholehearted yes. And I'm so grateful that I found Julia. I actually listened to a video of her giving a star seed reading to Erin Apke, who's been a guest on my podcast before. And I was just fascinated and, went down the rabbit hole and watched every video on Julia's channel. And that's where it all began.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that recognition. It means so much to me. Thank you.
It's fun to see, Julia, that you hold space for this type of underscoring of just how, with you stepping forward and onto a social platform, Julia, that many of us are becoming activated. And to underscore what Emily just said, that it really, for me, is like a soul family reunion when we enter into the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioner's course, because it's really not about just the head learning. It's the family that you can just fully be yourself and also receive like this kind of I don't know, it's like an echo chamber. We'll get to this vibratory, something happens when our network connects in with one another during those Q&A calls, during, any time that we tune in with one another. So thank you for mentioning that, Emily. And like you, I found Julia through Aaron Abke's little conversation as well. I was like, what is happening? So
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you.
Ursula, yeah, I have to give a shout out to you as well because I'm so grateful for you and you co-create the live calls in such a beautiful way, bringing forth so much wisdom, so much guidance. So it's been just a really beautiful part of my journey to be able to witness and to learn from both of you.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I always have the beginner's mind and I just try and figure it out up here and then try and share it with anyone else that has a beginner's mind because it's rather fascinating and it's a beautiful love light language because I added that love because it's like you just connect into the heart. And so no fears about if you don't know about astrology, no worries if you don't know anything about the galactic. If you're listening to this podcast and you're tuning into the vibration between myself, Emily, and Julia, it is a little mini love fest because what's happening is we're awakening this remembering that we are more than we imagine. And Emily's choice of words of multi-dimensional business mentorship basically is just saying it's time now. We're ready for this to see it's got to be more than the old paradigms of how we move forward in life and raise families and raise a business and thrive, but without the cost to Mother Earth at the levels that we had been doing. So now we want to shift gears and ask you, Emily, about the future. So I'm just going to allow you to just give us this picture of how you would like to see and imagine dreaming into your next future, like with this bigger dashboard, including the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioners material now that you're offering your clients.
Well, you've so beautifully attuned to the three areas that I feel so passionately called to at this moment in time, which are, conscious new paradigm business, sound healing, and galactic astrology. And those are really, what's lighting me up and how I see of making a contribution and being of service. And I feel like that's going to expand in so many exciting ways. I'm just open to how I am being guided by spirit, by the divine, and just knowing that these are kind of the areas that I feel so strongly excited, lit up by, inspired by. And I'm just excited to see how they continue to weave and expand and unfold in different ways.
This is such a beautiful Gemini North Node signature, the multi-passionate entrepreneur. I have the same, so I can recognize that. And that leads me to a question I have for you, Emily. How do you organize your time when you have multiple businesses that you manage? You feel deeply called to inspire people through creating beautiful content, and then you also study continuously. I know we have many students in our course who have a lot on their plate already, yet they are answering the calling to, follow their passion and continue to study galactic astrology. How was the process for you? Because there's such a vast amount of information inside a course. How did you just kind of go with the flow, or did you have a schedule? How do you go about that?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. And I love that you picked up on the Orion North Node connection. And yeah, I feel like, and in Gemini, it's just so many interests and passions. And, also love learning about human design and gene keys and, other areas that I like to like layer on. And so and you mentioned, running a business. And so sometimes I feel like I'm going in circles, because there's so much that I want to learn, and there's so much, that I tend to have on my plate at once. And I think it does help that I am a manifesting generator. That human design type, does tend to have a lot of different projects going on simultaneously. But I feel like just setting aside the time to focus on the course and studies and setting a goal, like for me, it was I took my time with it. Like that is a recommendation that I have, is to take your time, because it is so much information and it's so valuable. And so not to rush through it, to enjoy it. But I also set a goal for myself. And for me, that's been helpful for whatever it is. It's like, what are the two things that I really want to focus on this month or this year? And, the universe tends to help us to align and orchestrate around that.
I love that. Thank you.
Wow, I feel uplifted talking with you, Emily and Julia, because what's coming through is this idea, as Richard Rudd talks about in the Gene Keys, this idea of moving much more towards synarchy. This idea of working in as a family and teams, and it's through the heart consciousness. It's very different than, okay, here's my business and I got to figure out the plan and I stay in my head with my strategy. But this idea that we're working with the fullness of the heart, and working with the certain kind of collective to support one another, I think that's going to be fun to watch and see what you decide to pick up, Emily, because that music and alchemy through sound, that's going to dovetail in. And already I feel like I'm hearing the idea of the astrology with the galactic aspects are bringing in this new kind of geometry that has sound to it. And so when you create the master plan for individuals as they go forward in their own multidimensional business plans, there's a certain sound and tune and song. And I sense that you're going to be the one to be able to tease out and pull and shine the light back. Here, this is the song of your soul. How do you want to play with it and move forward in this new energy? As Pam Gregory's thoughts are coming into my mind as far as this plasma, the photonic light belt of plasma. So as we're shifting in this energy that's really heightened right now, the 23rd of January, it's like, whoa, we are in the new earth already. It's not like when, it's happening now. And I think the leadership that you're bringing forward, Emily and Julia, with this languaging, because galactic astrology is still new. People can barely get their minds around what is astrology, and I'm afraid of it because I don't know it. And then to bring in galactic, you both bring this ease to it, like, okay, it's just part of knowing who you are. And when you know that and why you're here, things just line up.
I love that so much. So, so beautifully said. And, Richard Rudd, one of my favorite passages in the Gene Key book is, I'm not sure if it's the synarchy, but he talks about really when we open the heart and we let the heart lead, the mind is the complement, but the mind becomes more efficient. And so I love, love, love what you're sharing. I feel like it's really speaking of this journey of really bringing us forward into the new earth energies. Yeah, and something else I want to mention, and this is something that Julia brought forth in the course, like around galactic astrology, because it is relatively new, and just the idea that people will discover and be attracted to it in divine timing. And those who are ready for it and who are excited, that this is, I just feel like there's just this wave right now that's happening. It's really exciting to see.
That's a beautiful message to part with, what you both just shared. It's been such a joy. Is there anything else the ladies would like to highlight at the end?
I think with that wave word, this wave versus particle, that we really are in that beautiful flow, that cosmic divine flow of the galactic center, super galactic, Shapley and great attractor. I mean, we are really in the flow, and it's quite astonishing as people are waking up to their multi-dimensional true natures of soul. And there's a place, if anyone listening to this, there's a place to land in Julia's Quantum Soul Guidance course, for you, if this material resonates, it's the time to step up. Well, I found it was my time to step forward. You determine if it's time for you, because there is this massive acceleration that's going on. And it's just been a delight to see the embodiment of the divine feminine show up through Emily's choices of interviewing people, podcasting, mentoring, taking her MBA and bringing it forward into a realm that is embracing all things esoteric and multidimensional. So I think that is the way shower for our next few generations to come. And Julia, just a shout out again to you for creating a living organization of a living library, a living class where your engagement with each of us is allowing for that activation if our classmates choose it or not. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. I admire both of you, and it has been such a joy connecting with both of you.
Thank you for being here with us, Emily. I'm excited for the people that will connect with you and book their Quantum Soul Guidance sessions with you. I'm sure they're up for a treat. So much love to you all. See you again soon.
Bye. Thank you.